Hi, welcome to the next edition of watching the Pioneer meta. And bans happened, nothing got touched into Pioneer, which makes a lot of sense considering the fact that it's in a pretty healthy spot. So overall, I'm pretty happy with that. And yeah, we're gonna dive right into the meta changes and two decks that I have to talk about. It doesn't seem like a lot of people are playing Pioneer this past few weeks, so it's a little bit light on actual deck lists this past week. Probably was because there might have been some. I think there was a big tournament, wasn't there? So people probably prepping for that instead. But I think Pioneer is in an amazing spot. Honestly, I think the meta looks a little skewed, but that's also because no one's really playing it on MTGO. I mean, who would want to play it on MTGO when all the people that are Pioneer players are mainly over on Arena? So let's get into the meta shifts, which, like I said, it's kind of weird with Pioneer because Pioneer is not really an Arena or not really a MTGO format anymore. I mean, there's still grinders that play on it, that gives us this weird skewed meta over something like that was on Arena. But let's dive right in. All right, so 23% according to this, red deck wins. I'm not really buying too much into that. It just happens to be, no offense, the easiest deck to pilot. So the fact is, like, you could literally, if you're a grinder on MTGO and you're just playing in leagues, because they're easy on Pioneer because no one's playing it, then you just pick up red deck wins and you're probably gonna get a decent play points back. I don't really think it's that big of a deal actually. Like Phoenix actually dipping is a little interesting, more I would say, than red deck wins actually increasing. I don't think red deck wins is really all that problematic. Phoenix would have been the only deck that would have been problematic. But other than that, like you look at this chunk right here, we have so many decks in the 6 to 5 to 4% tile, which means we are in a very, very balanced, healthy format. If you actually took this with, at face value and not based on the fact that, well, who's playing Pioneer? I mean, because if you add these up, you probably have 250 decks, maybe 250 to 300. That's not a lot of players, so keep that in mind. But yeah, so if you're basing off that, like Grease Fang's here, Demons is here, Phoenix is here, Red Deck Wins is here. There's two different Demons decks, so that's basically 11% of the meta, so that's pretty healthy. There's three decks at 11%. Fang, there's not really another Fang list, so it doesn't really overlap with anything. And the decks that have been here for a while are still stuck around four and a half. The company, Bogles, which is actually making a pretty good jump. Controls back around 4%. Golgari Food Sacrifice. Mono Black's Cecil is around. We have Mono White Tokens around. So like there's a lot of things going on. And this is basically Is It Prowess from Standard. It's not very good in Pioneer, so I wouldn't even really bother with it. I probably would rather play really any of these other decks, especially the enchantments deck, because we're going to talk about the Esper enchantments next. So I don't think my two cents on the Pioneer bans. I think they were correct. Nothing needs to be banned in the format. Nothing is unhealthy in Pioneer right now. Overall, like I play frequently on Arena just to acquire my gold to try to get some packs of Final Fantasy. That way, I can get to a point to start putting out content for it. Because, like I said, it's got to be slower. I don't really have the way of supporting Magic the Gathering anymore. So, yeah, I'm trying my best, but I have two decks recorded already. And I'm gonna try to get up by the time this video probably airs. One of them, and then the other one on Thursday. So I am trying my best. So hopefully you stick with me, and I'll dive into the other decks. So this is actually one of the decks that I kind of featured on the channel. I did originally, at the time of recording, I didn't have the third copy of Dark Confidant and the one on the board, which is pretty spicy. And it makes a lot of sense in this deck because a lot of your cards are one drops, right? Ethereal Armor, Rescue, Thoughtseize, Ghost Form, Boon, and then we have Skrelv. So like we have a lot of one drops. So our curve tops out at 2. So this is a perfect showcase of what you could do with Dark Confidant in the Pioneer format. And this deck does look good. So if you're interested in playing Dark Confidant, there's 2 builds today we're going to be talking about. I think this is probably a really good choice. Like I said, it really works well and it leverages Dark Confidant quite well. And of course, we have another one on the board in case we need more cards for grinding matchups. We have a Denial in case, and a Magic in case they have a lot of target removal. Against black-based strategies, we have Apostle, which is basically, kind of a better hexproof. Priest, we have in case we face something like Creativity or something like that. Drake for red. We have Duress to get rid of removal. Sweepers and combo pieces. Rest in Peace for Graveyard Hate. Hushbringer to stop ETB triggers. Another Insight in case we need more grindy cards. You probably want this over Shelter by Ghost. Take the swaps out, and you're pretty good, right? Because you're gaining life still, and you get to draw cards, which is really important against something like Control, which is a horrible matchup for this deck. FYI, if you face Control, just suck it up and just go to the next game. But yeah, this deck is pretty sweet overall. This deck will be featured on the channel this week. Really, actually, pretty close to it. Like I said, I didn't have this third Dark Confidant at the time of recording, so I added one Srom, and I cut this Dark Confidant for another Priest for temporary. And, it's pretty reasonable for now, I guess. And that's basically what I played. So yeah, check it out this week. It should be airing, I think. Let's get into the next and last deck. So last but not least is this mono black deck with 4 Cecils, 4 Dark Confidants, 4 Tiny Bones. So we have a couple legendary creatures. We have Mox Amber. Yeah, right here. And we have Gix, which makes sense. So we have a decent amount of legendary sub package. I'm not sure if we have enough to actually play the legendary land, but we have Bat for a little bit of hand disruption plus Thoughtseize. This should be Fatal Push. I hate the fact that they're showing me the Final Fantasy alternative card because I don't know these cards, but sure. I think this is Fatal Push. We have Etherborn for a little bit of Lifelink and Death Touch. Pretty solid 2-drop here. Especially since they rarely will block it. If you attack with Gix and if you play Gix, attack with Etherborn, draw a card, pretty good. For Duress, in case you need more hand disruption, we can cut the Fatal Push. We have Cage, in case we face something like Phoenix. Hearse for Phoenix. Unholy Annex, in case we need grinding cards. At that point, we could probably cut the Mox Amber. Ramp doesn't really matter in those kind of matchups, so you could just cut the Mox Amber. Fatal Push, bring in the Annexes, Duress. Pretty good there. If you need Enchantment Hate, you have that with Torment. Damping Sphere for the combo matchups. And that's all I have to talk about for Pioneer. Where do you guys think Pioneer is right now in the current format? I think it's very, very healthy. But until next time, hopefully you guys have a great rest of your day. I'll talk to you guys next time.